float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. These words echo through history, spoken by a man who was more than just a boxer. He was a poet, a rebel, a symbol of courage, and a global icon. This is the story of Muhammad Ali. Our story begins not in a boxing ring, but in Louisville, Kentucky, in 1942, with the birth of a boy named Cassius Marcellus Clay, Jr. Young Cassius was a live wire, full of energy and confidence. But the world he was born into was a world of deep racial segregation. It was a world that told him he was less than, a world that tried to put him in a box. But Cassius Clay was never one for boxes. The journey into boxing started with a stolen bicycle. A 12-year-old Cassius, furious and in tears, found a police officer named Joe Martin and declared he was going to whoop whoever stole his bike. Martin, who also trained young boxers at a local gym, told him he'd better learn how to fight first. That simple invitation changed everything. Cassius stepped into the gym, and a legend began to take shape. He was a natural. His feet were incredibly fast, his reflexes were razor-sharp, and his work ethic was second to none. He'd run every morning, train relentlessly, and tell anyone who would listen that he was going to be the greatest. His style was unorthodox, almost dance-like. He'd keep his hands low, relying on his head movement and footwork to dodge punches, a style that baffled his opponents and trainers alike. By the time he was 18, Cassius Clay was a golden boy in every sense. He won the gold medal at the 1960 Rome Olympics. He returned to America a hero with a gold medal around his neck. But the celebration was short-lived. He walked into a whites-only restaurant in his hometown, proud to represent his country, only to be refused service. The sting of that rejection was sharper than any punch. In a moment of profound disillusionment, he reportedly threw his Olympic gold medal into the Ohio River. The world had celebrated his athletic prowess, but still judged him by the color of his skin. This moment was a turning point, forging the activist he would become. He turned pro, and his rise was meteoric. But it wasn't just his fighting that got people's attention. It was his mouth. He was loud, brash, and incredibly charismatic. He'd predict the round in which he'd knock out his opponents, often with a clever poem. He called himself the greatest, the prettiest, and the Louisville Lip. The media didn't know what to make of him. Some were captivated, others were offended. But no one could ignore him. He was a marketing genius before that was even a term for athletes. He understood that boxing was entertainment, and he was the ultimate showman. In 1964, he got his shot at the heavyweight title against the formidable Sonny Liston. Liston was a terrifying, intimidating champion. Almost no one gave the 22-year-old Clay a chance. The odds were 7-1 against him. But Clay saw things differently. He taunted Liston relentlessly, calling him a big ugly bear. At the weigh-in, his behavior was so wild, with a heart rate through the roof, that many thought he was genuinely terrified. But it was all part of the plan, a brilliant psychological game. The night of the fight, the world watched in astonishment. Clay danced around Liston, peppering him with lightning-fast jabs. He was too fast, too elusive. Liston couldn't land a solid punch. After 6 rounds, with a cut under his eye and a shoulder injury, Liston refused to come out for the 7th. The impossible had happened. The young braggart from Louisville was the new heavyweight champion of the world. He leaped around the ring, roaring at the reporters who had doubted him. "I am the greatest. I shook up the world. Eat your words." But an even bigger shock was to come. The day after the fight, the new champion announced he was a member of the Nation of Islam. He renounced what he called his slave name, Cassius Clay, and declared he would now be known as Muhammad Ali. This was a seismic event. In the turbulent 1960s, the Nation of Islam was seen as a radical, separatist group. For the most famous black athlete in the world to join them was a direct challenge to the establishment. Ali had drawn a line in the sand. He wasn't just a boxer anymore. He was a powerful voice for black pride and self-determination. His conviction was soon put to the ultimate test. In 1967, at the height of the Vietnam War, Muhammad Ali was drafted into the U.S. Army. His response was unequivocal. He refused to go, citing his religious beliefs and his opposition to the war. His famous quote, "I ain't got no quarrel with them Viet Cong," resonated across the globe. He argued that it was hypocritical for America to ask him to fight for freedom abroad when black people were not free at home. The consequences were immediate and severe. He was stripped of his heavyweight title, his boxing license was suspended, and he was convicted of draft evasion. He faced a 5-year prison sentence. At the peak of his physical powers, the greatest boxer on the planet was banned from fighting. He lost millions of dollars and became one of the most polarizing figures in America. Many saw him as a traitor, a draft dodger, but to a growing anti-war movement and to people of color around the world, he became a hero, a man of principle who was willing to sacrifice everything for what he believed in. For 3.5 years, Ali couldn't fight. Instead, he took his message to college campuses and communities across the country. He became a powerful orator, debating students and intellectuals, sharpening his wit and his arguments. This period of exile transformed him from a confident athlete into a thoughtful, globally conscious leader. Finally, in 1970, his conviction was overturned by the Supreme Court, and his boxing license was reinstated. The king was back to reclaim his throne. But the boxing world had moved on. A new fearsome champion had emerged, Joe Frazier. Smoking Joe was a relentless, powerful fighter, and their first meeting in 1971 was billed as the fight of the century. It was more than a boxing match. It was a cultural clash. Ali represented the anti-establishment voice, while Frazier was cast, somewhat unfairly, as the symbol of the pro-war establishment. The fight was brutal. Both men absorbed incredible punishment. In the 5th, 10th, and final round, Frazier landed a thunderous left hook that sent Ali to the canvas. Ali got back up, but Frazier won the decision. It was Ali's first professional defeat. But Ali was not done. He fought his way back, eventually earning a rematch with Frazier and winning, setting the stage for one of the most legendary fights in history. In 1974, he traveled to Zaire, Africa, for a title fight against the new, seemingly invincible champion, George Foreman. The fight was called The Rumble in the Jungle. Foreman was younger, stronger, and had demolished both Frazier and Ken Norton, two men who had given Ali trouble. Once again, Ali was the underdog. What happened in Zaire was pure genius. Instead of dancing, Ali went to the ropes and let Foreman punch himself out. It was a strategy no one saw coming, which Ali later called the rope-a-dope. For round after round, he absorbed Foreman's monstrous blows, leaning back on the elastic ropes, covering up and whispering in Foreman's ear, "Is that all you got, George?" By the 8th round, Foreman was exhausted. Ali suddenly came off the ropes and unleashed a flurry of punches, sending the giant champion crashing to the mat. Against all odds, Muhammad Ali was the heavyweight champion of the world again. He had not just won a fight. He had proven that intelligence and spirit could triumph over brute force. His career continued with the epic Thrilla in Manila, the third and final fight against Joe Frazier, a contest of such brutality that Ali would later call it the closest thing to dying. He eventually retired in 1981. In his later years, Ali faced his toughest opponent, Parkinson's syndrome, a degenerative neurological disorder, likely exacerbated by the thousands of punches he had taken. The disease silenced the Louisville lip and slowed the man whose feet once danced so gracefully. But it could not diminish his spirit. He transformed once again, this time into a global ambassador for peace and humanitarianism. He traveled the world, meeting with world leaders and ordinary people, using his fame to promote understanding and compassion. The image of a trembling Ali lighting the Olympic torch in Atlanta in 1996 is one of the most powerful in modern history. It showed a man who was vulnerable but unbroken, a symbol of resilience and hope for millions. Muhammad Ali passed away in 2016, but his legacy is immortal. He was a man who fought in the ring and fought for what was right outside of it. He shook up the world not just with his fists, but with his words, his courage, and his unwavering belief in himself and in a better world. He He was, and always will be, the greatest. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that shaped our world.